Hello and welcome to another episode of the LARP Noobs. My name is Dave and I'm joined as ever by my good friend Ian.
Thank you. Hello.
And we're going to talk about E1 2022.
A full, big, crazy mega event. Like the first one since all of the things.
It's been 2.5 years since the last event.
Yeah. I mean, how many days is that? What's the maths on the days? I mean, but it's a bonkers amount of time. And
yeah.
And we've done player events, we've done some other things, but I think there's nothing that quite, like, and they were amazing, by the way, and we've got some episodes on them, so you can check those out, but like, that sounded very podcasty, but like, you know, there's a big difference between those, how awesome they were, and going to a major event that you've been hyped for, and is the centre of the game.
In a bunch of different ways, right? Like, for me as well, like, I talked to death, what was happening in the Empire at that point. We needed that storyline to move on to discover like what was going to happen next, basically. Like, I
think there's an interesting thing between your and my characters and where they were when we finished up, because my character is very like, all of the plot essentially comes from social interactions, like with other characters, right? While a lot of your stuff is starting to come from actual political machinations with the characters. Like, it relies on actual, we have achieved certain things and this is the state of play right now and we need to advance it, right?
I definitely think we have different approaches to the game. Like, I think that's just a testament to how many different ways you can kind of approach Empire type gameplay, right? Like, obviously we've got the Entwined Paths now, which is like our banner, which is like a group made up of different, like, smaller groups of steppings and stridings. So there's a lot of internal politics there that's kind of fun to play around with, what we're doing as a group.
And I've been very fortunate to have, given the position that we kind of have set up in our group, the Ashbourne, I'm very fortunate to like have that position, right? Because that means that I get, my political game exists. It just exists internally and it's within our kind of group and has really no major interactions with the broader mechanics of what it is that PD has created, right?
Yeah. So like last event, was it last event? I think I went for the Ambassadors of Charm.
Yeah, it literally was last event. Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
But yeah, I was unsuccessful in my run for the Ambassadors of Charm. But during like player events and stuff, I got in touch with the player who was the ambassador, and I was taking on his proxy. Yeah, that was pretty exciting. So I was really keen.
It's probably worthwhile to say, actually, just so people who don't play Empire understand. Like, Empire is a sort of a medieval sort of ish world, fantasy world, right? And you can kind of interact through the game with foreign nations.
Foreign service as part of as players there are ambassadors to foreign nations, and we have different political affiliations with those different ones. It's so compelling, right? Like, I love, for me, that's like, as soon as I heard, I was like, that's incredible. And like, ambassadors from other nations will come along, and like, you can have like sit down chats with them about the political state of affairs. I mean, like,
I think it's been
Jesus. I'm excited. Like, Jesus, I'm getting excited just talking about it.
I think it's been like also a bit of a white whale for you, right? Because I mean, it's one of those kind of things. Like, getting a hat, right? Getting a hat is something that is enticing to a certain type of player. I think.
This is both a very good character trait and a very bad character trait. If I'm denied from something, it makes me want to redouble my efforts so badly to try and get that thing that I was held back from achieving, that I'm like, I want it.
I think you like proving it to yourself, and you like the reward you get from going through that battle and coming out the other end and being victorious. I think you enjoy that motion. It's similar to how you enjoy, I think, the creative process, right? I feel like you as a person, you enjoy the reward that comes at the end.
I enjoy the punishment as well. There's an element of this where it's like, I want to get stuck into stuff and redouble my efforts.
I think it was really interesting, actually, when you failed to get it. I know we've kind of skipped ahead and actually to one of the events, but I think it's actually, this is all useful as framing for, I think, the mindsets that we went in with.
Yes, definitely very relevant, actually.
You know, so it's like, I think like you going for the position, right? Actually, and then not getting it, and then your reaction to it when you didn't get it, and how bummed you were. You were OC bummed.
Yeah, OC bummed. Yeah,
like, about like not getting this position, and then you came back harder. But actually have learned to sort of, I guess, respect it.
But it also, opened up, like it educated me on the political game.
Yeah.
It introduced me to like a whole heap of different people that are like the movers and shakers, or not even just movers and shakers, like people that are aspirations are to get to somewhere, right? So I got to meet these people. I would talk to a lot of people. I was lucky enough to tell. I came up with a story for Songs and Stories during the downtime that was about a trip to Jean, which I basically got to kind of hone over a few player events as well. So all this stuff kind of added up. In fact, I got offered the proxy because I told the story, and the ambassador was there and was just like, "Hey, you're clearly like really,
into it,
passionate about this. Like, let's work together."
I think there is a really nice thing that has that you kind of notice, and it's like how players appreciate other players giving things a go. And if you see another player sort of who's trying hard for something, I think it's it's fun to sort of just invite that person into the game of what you're trying to do, right? And I think that was something. And I think a lot of those positions, it is like that. Like if you show interest in the thing, you'll get a good shot at it.
But you're also meeting people. You're understanding how to maneuver in certain situations, like all of this stuff, right? Anyway, we'll start talking about E1 eventually.
Yes,
I promise. We're going to get there at some point. Let's talk about like a couple of things before getting involved.
Well, I think the other thing I really wanted to quickly talk about on this subject, actually, I really wanted to talk about this. I think like what I would really wanted to... I think what's necessary with this is to understand, I think, and one thing that I actually really like about the podcast and what we do, I think like we're quite honest about like the emotional experience of going to Empire.
Definitely.
So I think it's important to say that like, I think going into this event, bear in mind you're dealing with not two fictitious people who have all of their things sorted out,
in
right?
order, right?
Yeah, like it's 2.5 years of like everything it is to be a human being.
Man, like,
you know what I mean?
Even I think context as well. Even for me going in, like I had COVID, and since then I've just felt like pretty low.
Yeah,
like that's just that's just how I felt, and that's how I felt going into this event.
Yeah.
So don't worry, it's not going to be down.
No. I just thought it was interesting,
but definitely worth like kind of like giving context for a lot of our kind of emotional states going in.
I think for me, because there will be various parts of this story, and essentially you won't really get to partake in, simply because for me part of that story is, and I went back to my tent and I chilled out for a little while just to sort of OC collect myself, right? And it's like, not that was necessarily a bad thing, but I did that quite a few times, more so than I think I have at any other event. I think just because the reality of going back, the actually everything that expends mentally in yourself to go through the process of wanting to go and do the thing, you're really excited to do the thing, you're trying not to get too excited about doing the thing, then suddenly you're doing the thing, right?
Well,
it's a lot.
But it's a lot of nervous energy going in, right?
Yeah.
A lot, like you're really hyped for the event.
Yeah.
Like it's been a long time. You've got like things that you want to do, or expectations of the weekend, or not having expectations, but still being very excited about it. Like there's a lot to kind of decompress.
But yeah, this is not going to be a downer. It's going to be an amazing episode. Let's get into it.
There's a couple of like changes, like so Synod made a motion last event that changed the there was some basically in the Navarre brief there was some fairly in character mistrust for Briars because of the Synod motion. This has now been removed. This was put in like a week before the event or whatever, and there was a few like ending of the kind of storyline with the Briars that were fighting the Valorn, which are all kind of tree related, spring magic-y.
I think it's complicated because we need, like there's other aspects of it that still need further clarification and more. And I think that it was more a case of it was quite quick before the event. Right? I think like it's different, obviously, if it happens a few months before or a month before or whatever. But this is literally a week before. And some people may not even have seen it, for example.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's another context thing, just for like going forward. That was one of the things. It was kind of basically made clear that you could still play that game at Empire, and there was no problem with that. But like just that as a general thing for the nation as identity, that was what was changed. The camp organisers. Yeah. On it, they cleared we're in Navarre, so we camp in the woods. Yeah. And they'd cleared like a whole bunch of extra area so we could camp.
Oh, it was really freaking good, by the way.
Fucking so many new players.
Yes.
Biggest event ever.
Yes. and very, very many new players, and that is amazing. Like, what a fucking
couple
boom.
of things I heard that might be completely false. As anything on this podcast, please, the title should give you. This is not.
You were forewarned.
Yeah,
it's like we don't do the kind of like introductory kind of like be warned. This is shit. Like they're straight in the title.
This isn't an expert. Like these guys really know what they're talking about or have an inside track with PD. No. We are very much idiots on the outside who don't know anything. Yeah. So everything's based off hearsay and idiocy. I heard a number that was 3,800 players.
Yeah, I heard something similar to that.
And 1 in 5 of those players was a new player.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
How good is that? Like, one of the great things we got to see actually going into this was the 2-player events. We had a bunch of new players go there. And you just got that amazing view of, like, new player energy is phenomenal. And going into an event this big, bonkers and so cool. But as a process of this, we had to obviously make a lot more space. Yeah. And a lot of that was planned in the woods. Yeah, but a new plan for the camp had to come out.
The camp planners in Navarre, I won't say their names because I don't ask them, but they were on it. They did such a good job. They gave everyone, there were sectors. You had to, they had a big document that they got everyone how many tents you had, all that stuff. And they worked it out. And basically,
it's a lot of herding cats. And, that's a job. Yeah. It's a real task.
It's a big-ass job. Yeah. But then
they did a great job.
When we looked at the map, there's our group, the Entwined Paths, were in the same thing as the Black Scar, who are like our homies. Like Sol's a member of theirs. Like I like a whole bunch of their crew. We have a really fun rivalry.
Yes. And you know what else is cool? Because we're quite a militaristic kind of group. Like we kind of represent there's quite a large military force, which we'll get to later in the podcast, that can fall under NIFA kind of general command, right? And the Black Scar's the same. Yeah. And it's almost like this kind of big military block of just like badassery is up in this particular corner of the savages.
Camp. You know what? Let's just get...
let's get stuck in.
We're getting into it.
Get stuck in, yeah.
But man, arriving at the site, me and Bun drove in convoy, we got stuck in...
I was literally the car behind you.
When?
When we pulled in.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I literally pulled in right behind you.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yeah. You didn't see her. You hopped out and immediately talked to the guys. But I was literally the car behind.
That's funny.
It was so funny.
Bit of a queue to get in, understandably. It was fucking hot. Those fucking crew members are legendary for...
So good.
Eating dust for how many hours trying to get us situated. Drove in, threw the stuff out the back of the car. Amazing being back in the woods. So freaking cool.
The weather was great. The site itself, because obviously we had all the awesome people who've done all the clearing, incredible by the way. But obviously, it's a natural area and it's it's not flat.
There was a lot of rootage. There was a lot of kind of the ground was kind of uneven in certain areas. But people had tools and we were
working through it. And I think also the spirit of everyone, right? Because it was that, everyone's just up for helping each other and sort of setting up a nice camp plan. And it was very, very chill. I really enjoyed setting up.
Yeah, I thought the Black Scar lent us tools for them, so thanks to them. But we got situated pretty quickly, got the camp set up. Yeah. And it was just
Thursday was awesome.
Let's go see people, say hello, get the
and people
hype
came
going.
around to us, right? Yeah. Thursday, by the way, if you're a new player and you have the opportunity, if you can go to Thursday, I would highly recommend it. Yeah. I know it's difficult for people getting the extra day's leave, but I can tell you the rewards of going on Thursday are just so good. You'll just have a superior experience in a way, just because you don't have to do all that packing up before the event. You get a whole day of just relaxing.
I think touching base with your people that you're going to be role playing with is nice as well, to do it overseas and just
especially after this length of time. It was such a really we had a really nice evening, and what was we were quite antisocial towards the end and just spent it just talking and chilling. But it was just a really nice experience, and even that was really nice. I didn't ever really party this weekend. No, I didn't either.
We were relatively well behaved.
Yes, which is, and had a good time for doing it as well.
Oh, we're getting old, Ian. That's why.
Yeah. But that's just basically Friday, isn't it?
Yeah. Tell me about this cloak of yours, Ian.
Okay, so keen listeners of the podcast might know that I've mentioned that I have a cloak that is kind of part of Talas's get-up. And I had one made, an old one made a while ago that was really, really good, done by Curious Pastimes. And that was not Curious Pastimes. I messed that up. I might have to cut that out. I don't know. What the fuck?
Which company was it?
So, yeah, I can't remember. But it was really good. It was really good. And I just kind of... But it wasn't quite, as Talus evolved as a character, it wasn't quite suitable anymore. Mm-hmm. So I got in touch with Andy from Armchair Armories, who's one of our friends through the Orcs Planet, and was just like, is there any way you could make me something like this? Because I've got quite into crafting over the time, but there's certain things, if you want something done really right, and it was a crucial piece of kit, it's like the apex kind of part of what Talus is this cloak. Like, it's the one thing I really wanted to nail. So I wanted to go to a professional.
Andy has mad skills.
He's so good. And I went down there for a day and basically got to look over designs and work on the concept of what this cloak was. It was a really nice experience, just talking through the backstory and all of that. And he showed me this kind of concept for how the cloak would look, just as a sketch. I just absolutely fell in love. It was totally different from what I thought it was going to be. But it was amazing. It was kind of like an Arya Stark. That's what it was based on. A cloak that has basically an opening on one side, basically on the hip where the sword is. So it's just like a slip-on thing. And it was so good. I was just like, we have to do this. We have to do this. It's going to be amazing. And it's got like the Ashbourne logo in gold on the back. It's got gold fire with all these kind of thistles that make up another part of my kind of kit that spirals up the front, and then on the inside, which is purple to represent the whole Urizeni part of Talus, it has this embroidery and this beading of like this kind of celestial kind of set of trees, and that's a detail that you'll never even see.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so
fancy. It's just outlandish. Your entire kit at this stage is like literally like a peacock.
Yes.
Like,
I can go, when I went full fashion later, it goes ridiculous. But it was just getting the cloak off Andy and then putting on the full kit, the full regalia, and walking out as Talus at an event. I've put a lot of time, mate, lot of myself.
You look amazing. It's as fancy as Navarre kit can get, I think. It's
I'd like to think so. I've really tried to push that element of the game, and people, by the way, have been really supportive. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, for me, like, I'm expressing myself, and it's obviously been a journey for me. And I think, like, and I know I'm kind of pushing the brief in certain ways that are kind of challenge it almost, right? But everyone has been like really good, like really, really good. I think all of my interactions have been like loving and considered and like super supportive from everyone in the whole community. So if you're part of like the Navarre sort of group, like on a deeply personal level, I can't tell you how much that's meant. It really has been a hugely rewarding and like life supporting thing that's kind of actually helped me through the last sort of few years, especially like just to have that. I don't think it's something that maybe I've even expressed that much, but it's been really valuable.
Well, you've put like so much time and effort into kind of like honing this fabulous fucking look by taking like Navarre imagery and like basically turn them up to 11, right? Like
hopefully, and I like to think that it represents the story very well of who Talus is, because it has that sort of otherworldly kind of aspect and the whole link with Urizen. But anyway, I don't want to sort of spend too much time on it because I know I do waffle a lot about my kit, but just on an emotional level, like just stepping out in it, you guys being awesome about it, and everyone treating me so well, like people just being so kind. Considering like it's been a massive part of my life putting it all together. Like it's the reward, the personal reward of even learning the skills to do it is so crazy life changing, right? And to then have those skills and so on kind of like, like acknowledged and kind of like appreciated, and to have people be so supportive of it, it's really kind of like powerful stuff for me as a human being. So I thank everyone. But yeah, sorry, that's we got very heavy. But
yeah, damn. I mean,
yeah,
you look great. You're very, very.
I'm very fancy. On the end of the day, yeah.
Not the most practical.
No.
Not the most practical.
But I'm practically irresistible. That's the way I like to think of it.
Practically, yeah. Had a little bit of the Black Scar were training outside the camp.
And this is the great thing about love, right? But in the end of the day, it's just you, right? Like, it's just you doing the thing, and the Black Scar challenge you to a duel. It doesn't matter what the legend of you is. It matters what you actually do in that moment. And for me, that moment was getting disarmed in front of a whole circle of people in like 3 moves, right?
Yeah, you don't fuck with Black Scar, basically. So.
Really, really good. It was such a cool moment. Like, what a great... Because it was right at that point of like entering game, right? It was right at the cusp of IC.
There's a lot of this where like players don't wait for PD and the official time in, right? People start like just merging between in character and out of character instead of talking about things that we're going to do at the weekend in a kind of abstract term. We're talking much more about them in a kind of like, well, we're going to need to arrange weapons to just defeat the Valorn.
You can see people, we've talked about this before, just like putting down the RPMs a little bit, right? They're kind of like, they're revving those RPMs up, and they're getting like, you know, if you've got an accent, you start dropping into the accent. If you talk a certain way, if you have like a certain way of talking.
Well, you have to kind of game plan up, right? Like
you've got to become your character to a certain state, right? Like the way Talis moves is slightly different to how I move, right? Even if the accent doesn't change.
That. Like, I love to roleplay, but Gellert Ashbourne is so similar to me. It's like...
I think it is, but I think you do dial stuff up on certain aspects.
Yeah, I do, but that's more having fun with the roleplay. Like, I think if I was going to have another character at Empire, I would lean into much more of a heavy RP thing. But that says a lot about like my last 2 years, right?
I think that's another really interesting topic, and it actually is like the aspect of the fact that there's a difference between you and me in the sense that you have done other role-playing systems, and some of those systems are quite bespoke systems.
Mate, I've been bench pressing RP for the last 2 years. Like, I've been playing role-play games with like a whole bunch of cool people.
We've had the best D&D of our life,
I've been LARPing in a couple of new systems. Player events, like I'm RP ripped right now.
Yeah.
Whereas my Gellert was like one of these things where I was just kind of like, I need to make contact with this person again and really understand their motivation. But yeah, generally, I think as a character, they're mostly like me. I tend to have it like they will try and be quite positive about things. They'll also try and see. One of the things I wrote in my backstory was that we'll always try and see the best in someone.
Right.
Okay. Whereas I think like that was a good starting point, but the more he's gone through the political world of Anvil, now he's understood that like the Empire is run a certain way, which Gellert doesn't necessarily think is like the most optimum way, right? Like he's very much against like self enrichment and much more about what we can do for the Empire, right? All that stuff. So quite passionate about something.
I think that's one of the things actually, like. You've made a character, obviously, that because he's quite like strongly tied to like how you are, also means you get to excel at all the skills that you're incredible at. Yeah, like your public speaking, that your kind of your way of like putting an argument across is something that's like Gellert's very powerful.
I am an asshole, and I do like to like. I'm not a complete debate lord, but I definitely
you bring a certain heat of game, right?
Yeah, and it's more like if you... I don't know. I like to be proved wrong in an argument, basically. But I do have I can be quite strong in my argument.
And I think like that's like just a difference between you and me. I'm very much not a confrontational person.
No, you do not like confrontation at all, Ian.
No, I don't.
That is... especially when it's hoisted upon you, which we'll talk about later. Yeah. But, no... I quite like those environments.
Yes.
So, like, the political game was kind of interesting to me. Obviously, there's a whole bunch about the political game, and even the foreign service game, where as someone coming into the game that wasn't there from day dot, it's very intimidating to be, like, gazumped, right? Like, you have a position, and then it's like, you're like... this is my position, and someone comes on and goes, oh, well, like 2 years ago, X happened, which completely explains
and there's a whole
why.
bunch of new players as well.
Yeah.
Right, on top of all of that. And that actually new players do represent...
But to be fair, the more you kind of like sit in the game, read bits up here and there, but a lot of the time interacting with other people, you'll pick this stuff up as you go.
Oh, yes.
And I actually feel like I could 100% be wrong on loads of my positions, but I have positions on certain things, or at least a logical train of thought that I have about certain situations in the world.
It's very way-ish, right? Like, you know how the way is essentially... You can almost argue any argument using the way. Because it's so flexible. You have all the virtues that let you basically argue any point. You can apply a virtue to almost any position. And it's kind of almost designed like that. What's
interesting about like the kind of military game and the foreign service game, right? Like we go to war with these different foreign barbarian nations. We trade with other ones. But like when you hear about like treaties that we have, the wording of the treaties, how long will they last for, were treaties broken in the past, like all of these become incredibly important, right? Like basically the Empire has broken trust with a lot of different nations around the world.
The Empire are very much not the good guys necessarily in this story,
I think it's also based on the fact is that it's a game.
Yes.
There are lots of different players all pulling and pushing at different parts of the game. So from the outside, it's this jumbled, chaotic mess that like, I don't know if you were the neighbours to the Empire, how rational you think them as a neighbour and ally would be. Okay,
very much so, right?
They will do sweeping reforms that will change the entire nature of like relationships between two countries. Right?
But I think that's something that's always attracted you to that position. It's exactly where you sit.
It's awesome. It's
like you get to be the
my voice is so high there.
Yeah, my voice.
If you can't tell, both of us have recovered from COVID, so therefore we're.
And came back from battles like a few days ago and have been shouting.
Exactly. It's late night noob chat right now. Strap in, boys and girls.
But I think like you get to be going for a position which is like the ambassador at the brink of First World War, right?
Yeah.
Potentially.
So actually, you know
what I mean? Well, we'll get to it later, but I think like that's the context for the type of game you're entering.
I'll go into a bit more of this later, but fuck, man, if you're listening to this and just like, hey, how was your event? Like, how far, I don't know how far into the episode we are right now.
We
haven't done it.
We haven't done anything. We haven't actually begun the episode yet. This is all intro, essentially.
I'm so sorry, listeners. We're trying.
The other thing I did was, and actually this was a lead-off of your example going for positions. The Thimble came up, which is a national bourse seat, which produces weirwood.
It's big whoop.
It's big whoop, and it requires herb gardens to vote for. And I felt suddenly very confident that I could get at least some people to vote for me who had herb gardens. And by the way, this is like, again, like something I would never have thought myself really doing, applying for a position like this. It's not like it's even like, in terms of a lot of things, it's not like being...
It's quite a hard vote, though.
Yes.
Okay? Because you have to know the person's name you're voting for.
Yes.
Go down to the hub.
Yes.
And write it on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Usually, Fawns Council, right? I'm not saying the Fawns are dumb or anything, okay? But you have to stand senators in front of them.
Everyone's physically there.
And then everyone's there.
Yeah.
They have a bit of a chat. Yeah. And everyone goes and stands in front of their man or woman, right? And then they go, oh, this has the most votes.
Yeah. I think you stand behind them, actually, don't you?
They either do it facing them or turning away.
Oh, no, that might be senators are different. I don't know this.
Senators look you square in the eyes. I think, I'm not sure whether they did it for or not. They change
it changes, but it's cool. But that's not how this voting system is. This voting system is you've got to convince people to give up their hard-won time to go to a place that is a walk, that they have to write down your name on a piece of paper.
And get it right.
So you can get an imaginary position.
Who's Ballis?
Yes. You know? Ballis is when I die and I come back as like the evil version.
Evil Ballis.
No,
it's not Ballis. Fuck, you thought Tallis was bad, but Ballis is the fucking worst. I hate that guy.
So...
please come back as Ballis. It would be fucking hilarious. The bad Tallis. Sorry,
It's just like... uber emo, where it's like lots of black.
That's
and
funny.
Anyway, so I went for this position, and it was a lot of fun. But I think, having seen you go for a position, I understand I probably wasn't going to get it, but I could give it a good bash. Actually helped me have a lot of confidence. So I went in to do that, and then I went straight to the Vine kind of group meeting afterwards, because I know they represent a lot of herb gardens, and I know them, and they're really awesome people. Yeah. So I thought, like, I would just, at the end, have a chat to them all and sort of put my case across.
Always be hustling.
Yeah, always be hustling, basically. And another person going for the position did exactly the same thing. Which actually made me feel better about the decision, because they were a more experienced player than me, and they were making that move. So I felt like I was doing...
If you think anything is like... There was a guy who was doing it at standing.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Like, he went out there and went like, here's some of my business, but also...
Yeah.
Vote for me in the thing.
Yeah.
Here is my name, write it on a bit of paper, come and find me, right? Yeah. Like, it's... Like... There's no...
Shameless plugging, but that's... I didn't do any of that, because I was like, I should have done that.
Yeah, you forget that. Yeah. Forget that mindset of like, there's this would be a little awkward and embarrassing. No, you want to be like...
Yeah.
Fuck, there are savages out there, man.
I mean, but it's a fun position to sort of go for and to put myself for, is basically what I'm saying. And I have a go.
What I liked about it was that you were going out there and having to like interact with people, which is the whole entire point about this, right? Yeah. Like, a lot of this stuff isn't about the end result of getting the thing. Well, it is, but the journey of doing the thing can often be very, very rewarding, and you'll be surprised at who you meet and all the fun that you have along the way.
I've kind of discovered in myself as well, and LARP's been a good sort of thing of this, and it's kind of made me kind of want to get better, is like, I'm actually quite comfortable talking to people. I just have a difficult time introducing myself to somebody, and like, if somebody else comes to me...
don't worry, Ian, they will come up to you now.
Yeah.
Just because of your outfit.
Well, but that's actually that. I mean, that's really cool, like, cool and stuff. But it's like it's kind of been one of those things where it was a cool thing to do, because it meant I actually had to approach people and introduce myself, right? And try and engage in an icy conversation about a thing, right? Like, that's not something that's naturally part of my game. Like, I have that with my friends, right? But I very rarely walk up to somebody and be like, hi, I'm Talis Ashbourne, vote for me on this thing, that kind of thing, which is cool, right?
Honestly, I think it's funny, because you're actually very good at that, and I think it's more like, maybe something that you haven't really done in your life.
Yes, definitely. Before, I've never done that in my life.
But I think it's something that you're actually very good at, and it's not like something that you actually... do you know what I mean? That, like, it's not like you're bad at it. In fact, you have some really, really good skills that make you very good at it. It's kind of interesting to see you go, I can do this, and I actually do really enjoy it. So
I've discovered a lot about myself in that sort of sense. And it was cool. And it's like, I want to get a bit better at introducing myself to people, and I'll give it, I give things a crack, basically. I think that's part of the fun of doing these kind of things.
Yeah, we had so we've been playing, like, I fortunately met a nice lady called Paige while playing some roleplay games.
Yes.
And kind of invited her into this little thing that we've been doing, which is like a little roleplay game thing with Sol as well and Bung, and we've been having a really nice time.
Yeah.
But we've never, like, we get on really well. Paige is awesome, but we've never met in person.
Yes.
So it was like, Paige was like, I'm coming to Empire. She's
incredible.
Like, hype as fuck. And I'm like...
I was hyped she was
Paige,
coming.
she's just going to be... You're going to love it. Like, you're going to love it.
Like, when you kind of know that person, who that if they put their toe in it, they would absolutely adore it.
Like...
I knew it was, like, going to be a mind-blowing experience for her.
And her lovely boyfriend, Jim? Was it Jim? Yeah, Jim. Yeah. Sorry, Jim. Yeah. And then but, like... let me put it this way. Seeing them going through this weekend was just fucking sick.
Absolutely delighted.
Their kit was on point.
Yeah.
They had a really good attitude about the game. They were getting out there. And when I saw Paige walking back with Justin and they were talking, I was like, oh yeah, these two are gonna they're gonna wreck house, man. They're gonna have a real fucking good time and a good friendship. It was just like, it was so good to see people that were like, I knew they would get on well with it, and they took to it like a duck to water, like, really good.
They were so good, and like, they got to sort of hang out with us on the Thursday, I think, and on the Friday it was great, and we were all kitting up, and I realised I had some, like, spare sort of kit that obviously I don't use anymore, and I was able to give it to them, and they were really. And
Oh,
it was
I didn't
just
know that. That's
yeah. I was able to give them that old hood that I had, and the belt and stuff, and it was like. And they looked amazing as well, by the way. They brought some like really kind of cool, like better first player kit than I ever had.
It's better kit than I've got now. What are you talking about? Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, really fucking cool. Like new player hype. There were loads of new players there. Like in fact, when I was going around shopping one day, a group of listeners bumped into me, which I still like. If you ever bump into me and I look like a rabbit caught in the headlights, like that's or a deer in the headlights, I'm like still don't really know how to react, but. Yeah. Really, really cool people. They were just like, hey, listen to the podcast. They were new to the hobby, hype for it, and it was just like really fucking cool. There was this, all around the place. There was this kind of like new player hype added to everything, like a spicy.
It's like you go down to the shops. I didn't even need to go to the shops, but I went down to the shops basically to like watch people. Yeah, you got to do it, right? And also, I got to watch a whole bunch of people like find their first weapon. Which is like it's almost like a spiritual moment.
I love it how
like the blade will find you.
I love it how how cool it is how people gravitate towards certain parts of the kit. Oh, this is one thing I want to say before we go any further. During my time of LARPing, I have unfortunately started to develop my own taste. Okay, and this is a problem because I am no longer like. I just want to fight for fight and then drink for fake money, right? I want all of the things that I want, right? So when I'm going around trying to find kit for me now I'm like, no.
Horribly picky.
No, none of this.
Yeah.
None of this. In fact, I commissioned a weapon by having this conversation with Ian so rudely at a fucking weapons fair that I was like, in front of the table this is, okay? I'm looking at the weapons and I'm going... I love this about this weapon. Yeah. But I want this, and I want this, and I want blah, 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 blah. And like, literally the guy that on the stall overheard the conversation was like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, very fucking specific, right? I'm like, I want it to be like this, and this length, and I want it to be like this. But like, a lot of the design I didn't really go into. And then me and him chatted for a bit. Yeah. And then... We vibed, right? There was a bit of vibing.
You can tell.
We were vibing. And it was just like, he was digging the kind of like concept that I was going for. Man.
Working with people, creative, talented, people, when you, especially if you do that thing where you say, I want you to have fun.
I'm getting better. You have to be like, here is my brief.
Yeah.
At a certain stage, you have to stop being involved in the details, right? Like, as soon as like, language is difficult because you literally like you don't always know that the words that you're using mean the same thing to the other person, right? Like it's a language and communication is almost like a
you're smelling, hearing, and tasting red, right? And you're trying to explain what that is
exactly. So, but vibing anyway. This item didn't get finished because of COVID, but like I got sent some pictures this evening that are very fucking exciting.
You got some new pictures. Oh right, and this is the unfortunate thing. You guys aren't probably going to get to see this until it's finished. I imagine. Yeah, it looks really good.
So that would be an E2 thing.
That'd be an E2 thing. But
fuck, but like I said, like I love like just letting artists get to a certain point in the conversation and then just being like, okay, I think we're together on this.
Yes.
At this point in the conversation, just do your thing. Create, express yourself. Like,
I think that would be my advice, actually. If you are going to commission something, I had a very similar experience with Andy. It's like, describe the thing you want, and then at a certain point, just say, look, express yourself and enjoy it. And I think, like, the artist on the other side will... Like, I mean, maybe they do want very specific things, but every time I've done that, it's been really rewarding. You give enough detail, and then you give them the chance to get to them express themselves. And then you
also you leave the room open for like cool surprise. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that like I mean we'll talk about it when we actually see your blade, but it's like it's amazing.
It's dope. We didn't go on any skirmishes on Friday night. We didn't. You know what I mean? Like we didn't do any of the kind of like crazy shit on Friday night that we usually do. Had an Entwine's Path meeting.
Yes, yeah.
Which was nice.
We elected you as the political advisor to the whole group.
Yes.
Which actually, it's probably worth saying, Entwine Paths, we're not like huge, but it's like, it's a reasonable blob of people. So you do essentially, when you're given a position like that, there's a certain degree of like, now you are giving information on behalf of a bunch of people, to a bunch of people.
I like our political system a lot. It basically works on like the leaders of each setting and striding. I basically make up a council. They have a vote each.
Yeah.
Advisors basically advise but have no voting or vetoing power.
Yeah.
It's
really nice.
It's cool politicking, right?
And it's like eventually, obviously, we might disagree on something, or there might be little factions or whatever, and that's all down the road. I don't think so right now.
But striding instead, can get rid of their own people. Under
exactly.
leadership.
Right. If I'm not representing your interests, you could get rid of me. All that kind of stuff. It's good fun.
I told my story at Songs and Story.
I was there for that. I think it went really, really well. I
left my tambourine at home.
I know.
I had to be like crash course myself on the story again because I'd completely forgotten it. If you knew that the only person that knows that story like I do is me, and therefore I know the bits that I miss out and mess up. Okay, right. However, like I went into it with like. I feel like I just went into it with like a really positive, fun attitude. Yeah. Like, first thing I did was ask to borrow someone's tambourine. Which is just like a nice little, I was like, this is fun, let's do this. And someone had a tambourine, I borrowed it off them, started chatting, kind of encouraged a kind of like back and forth with the crowd.
I thought that was really good, and that's something I think you've wanted to try and add into it.
I really want to try it, but it's such a double-edged sword. It's kind of, you have to be careful with it, right?
You're learning a lot of this, right? Because it is definitely a skill.
In the field, though, like, it's hard. But yeah, I feel like there was a couple of notes that I would have loved to have hit better, but generally really happy. And like people came up to me afterwards and were like, "Oh, that story was awesome," and all this stuff. And it's just like, for me, I'm like fucking amazed. Like I love it. It's really fun. It's really fun. So
I wanted to catch you at the end, but you exited from a place I didn't see. But it was really good. I think like the interesting thing, and it's interesting to hear you say that, is that like from my perspective, it was like I didn't notice the mistakes. Right? You know what I mean? I think it worked really, really well. I really liked it. Really
it makes me want to like. And there were some fucking powerhouses on the fucking thing. So what's really nice is watching other storytellers and just being like. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's really nice. These little techniques that they have. So,
well, I mean, I think we'll get we'll get to Al later, especially he's the person who naturally jumps out to me. But
that was really nice, basically.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's always nice to kind of like throw yourself into it and just kind of
massively.
Like, just get it done. So,
and Songs and Stories is like so supportive as well. What a great environment to do it in.
I like it. Like I'm friends with Gabby and Sam and a few other people there, and it's just kind of like nice to be like. Also, they've got quite a lot of. It sounds dumb. But their like faith in me going out and everyone else's faith in me makes me just kind of like it makes me a better storyteller because I'm more relaxed, right? Like I'm just like I go in there as soon as I get into as soon as I cross the threshold and I'm like hello Navarre. Yeah. I'm like I'm on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like
you are really good at it. I think like I had a song I wanted to do but because of COVID, I've still got like a slight cough that just keeps coming occasionally. Apologies if you hear it during this thing. But basically, I was just like, I was just a bit nervous in myself of like, what if I coughed while I was singing it? So I just didn't do it.
Also, your throat's probably wrecked as well, right? Like,
so I thought like, I'll come back E2. I really want to sing it. So it's a new one that I've kind of been working on. So I really wanted to kind of get it out. But yeah, it was great to see you go out and do that. I thought it was really good. I was really chuffed with it.
Fun.
I couldn't hang around too long though. I was going to try and find you, but I couldn't because I needed to go off to Urizen. There was some stuff I needed to do there, which I can't really talk about. But then I also just wanted to to see everyone again. Like
you've got loads of friends over there.
It's a huge part of the game for me, right? It's just like popping over to Urizen, seeing a bunch of people. Home, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not actually sure how many of the players there even know me, but it's like I wallflower a lot in Urizen. I just enjoy it. I enjoy the vibe of it.
I don't know if everyone else had this problem, but recognizing people, putting context to people, I've grown my hair and shaved People I'm friends with had no idea who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, who? And I'm like, oh my God, it took me a minute, right? Like, literally I shaved the other week and my niece ran away from me, okay? Like,
right. Sure.
It's like, my facial hair, I think, is a big indicator on people, like, establishing who I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was fucking weird. But yeah, I think we all had moments where we didn't feel recognised, that felt kind of rubbish, and also when we didn't recognise people and then felt rubbish for not recognising people immediately, right? That was a real common thing. Also,
a bunch of times, I think I do this, it works quite well for me. If I'm ever kind of like having a moment where I'm a bit like self-conscious about stuff, I just go and stand and watch the vista of Empire. Like, I just take a few minutes. Unfortunately, the weather's very nice as well of the day, so I could just took a bit of time, a bunch of times during this event.
I think this is one thing, like, it's kind of hard to explain our Friday night in, like, loads of detail, because loads of it was just existing in the fucking game, right? I went off to a foreign service meeting after Senate had finished, which was...
What did that entail, essentially?
Okay. In the Senate room, Skywise Fowl, the Imperial Consul, who's in charge of all the foreign stuff, a bunch of the different ambassadors showed up, and basically you all get given, well, all the ambassadors are given to them only a foreign dispatch of what's happening in the nation.
Nice.
And then this was like an opportunity for them to relay to each other. I think I'm right in saying they've never done this before.
That's cool.
They should definitely do this more.
That looks really good.
Okay. Like, because it was cool having all the different ambassadors talking about the nations. So some nations would be like, this nation's fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Because of all the things the Empire have been doing to them. Okay? Like, the other nations are like, it's a very reasonable reaction if someone's treating you that way to do this thing, okay? Yeah. Whereas other nations would be like, how's your nation getting on? Great! They fucking love us. It's like, there's no problem there at all. It's like, then you find out it's like, oh, well, the Empire's literally given them everything they could possibly want and hope for. Like, everything. It's like, you want the keys to the fucking Mercedes? There you go, pal. Like, get away with you. Really illuminating. Really, really fun.
That does sound actually like a really nice touch, because I assume, is that information they're receiving entirely new? It's not something that was in the wind.
No, I think it's all new.
That's a really cool idea.
And it's also...
So it's like an on-the-spot update of what's happened.
Yeah, and also everyone else doesn't know. As far as I'm aware, the ambassadors are the only one that get that piece of information.
Man, that's really cool.
I cannot stress
that's really cool.
how important what is happening in the Foreign Service game and how big it will affect Empire. And it's kind of on the back burner.
Yes.
Okay? Like,
very much on the back burner.
Everyone talks about the Vlorn, everyone's talking about the Jotun, all this stuff like this, but like, there is stuff way up on the hill that's rolling down towards us right now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
by the way, if you think you win Empire, the sequel is going to be a mammy fucker. No, basically, like, it gets bad.
I've seen the future, and it's not good. Do you know what I mean? The Empire don't win. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't spread the way around the known universe, and it's great. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't crush the Vlorn hearts. It's
messy.
Terrible.
It's messy. That's what it is.
It's earth-shattering what's going to happen. Yeah. Anyway.
That's basically Friday, wasn't it?
I want to touch on my failed practical joke.
This was an interesting one. I think, like, for me, it's sort of... I was... when you create a character, well, this is how I kind of think of it, there's a fantasy of the character that you create.
Sure.
Right? And the fantasy of Talis is a certain way. Is like, there's certain words that crop up and appear in my mind when I think of it.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like... I don't really know what I'm trying to say is, but like...
Did you feel that my practical joke messed with that picture of your character?
Yeah, I guess it just wasn't that interpretation that I had of the... But it's tricky. What we're trying to say is basically it was actually, in retrospect, a very funny flyer where you'd... whoever did the image was awesome, by the way. Dude, really talented.
This practical joke was so elaborately planned, meticulously, and the delivery went so fucking badly.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Anyway, I found out that you could get there's smut around the Empire, okay?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like jokingly going around to get game, being like, I want to see if I can find smut from every single Empire.
Yeah.
I met someone who was like, I do commissions. So I was like, you can see how this thought started.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, get this commissioned, need some words, had someone else work on some of the words for it.
Also, really importantly, like, you are literally like my best friend. You've known me since I'm 3.
Yeah.
Right? We've spent a huge life experience together. Like, you're the person who I love probably most.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's a really like...
Okay, so then I have to print all these out, double print them because it's double-sided, slice them all out. I'm going to everyone around me like... Is this too far? I'm really aware of this, and I'm getting green lights from everything. I have a group that are literally going to distribute them secretly on Friday and put them all around the thing. There's a call to action to try and get them to come up to you and like get them to get something off you. So something delicious to get something delicious off you.
Yeah.
I bought 240 fucking Freddos in preparation for the flyers that were going to go. I'm there walking around with like 200 Freddos trying to look fucking not sus, right? Why have you got all those Freddos, Dave?
Yeah, you were trying to explain that. I was just like, that's just an insane amount of Freddos.
It's an awful lot of Freddos to justify.
I was like, because you were trying to justify it like it was like food for during the battles or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like...
How many people are you feeding?
Well, that's why I started saying, like, oh, I've got a whole bunch of brown paper bags. We
so
should bag them up and sell them. And
I'm
then
bagging them up to sell them, going like, fuck. Anyway.
Yeah.
I first hear about it when I'm walking bunk. I haven't told anyone about this apart from people, the very only people that are involved. Everything is secret. I can't trust anyone in the camp, nothing, okay? All this stuff, it spreads out there. And then the first thing I hear as it's coming to you is... There's another group who lost a player called the Hero of Brakeliand, and they're fucking pissed.
I think it was the Defender of Brakeliand or something. I don't think it was quite the same terminology, but it's basically something like that. I'd have to check, but it's not quite...
shenanigans on that. But also, more importantly, the Egregore was fucking pissed off. Yeah. I don't know whether the Egregore was pissed off or not.
No, was not at all,
but,
like, by the way.
But I think it was like, the way it was delivered to you was so... Like, your worst nightmare...
Yeah.
Right? Like, literally, like, it could...
And I'm not blaming the players, by the way, who introduced me. It's not about that.
No. This is just the worst set of fucking events that could have taken place to make what could have been really fun.
I completely agree.
Actually turn out to be something that really bummed you out. Because it bummed you out, it fucking sent me into a massive spiral, and I was really fucking bummed out.
I think, you know, to be honest, I was concerned for you making this episode, even like just like talking about it.
I think it's good to talk about, but fuck, it was awful. It was just like I think the thing is that I like to rib in and we like to have fun. Okay, as soon as like if everyone else on the field found that joke hilarious, apart from Ian, it's worthless. Okay, like it's absolutely worthless because it's if the person that you're playing the prank on isn't laughing along with you, it's bullying. And if there's one thing, Ian, I fucking hate, it's fucking bullying, right?
Yeah, like, I think though, you told me it was you, which was the other thing.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah,
as soon as it hit and I saw the look in your eyes, I was like, immediately OC. Like, we gotta fucking immediately let you know this isn't some malicious act.
Yeah.
Which it was. I think at that point, it felt malicious, right? It felt malevolent, like it felt mean.
It was. You know what? It actually kind of felt like my immediate worry was just like I was in trouble with a teacher or something like that. I went back to that mindset of thinking.
Dude, you looked that way,
and I just wanted to resolve it. And it's like actually that was not at all the problem. It's actually been quite illuminating about myself and the various ways I think about things and process things. I honestly don't think you really did anything wrong. It's just.
Hashtag Dave did nothing wrong.
No, I honestly think that
but dude, I'm so sorry. It's not even like I let me put it this way. I'm not even sorry for the joke, right? Yeah. I'm sorry that my actions led to making you feel that way. Like it's such a terrible thing, and I just, you know, you never want to hurt the people you love, right?
Yeah.
So
it was a shame, but it's fine basically, and like I am actually like I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life, like right now, and I know it hasn't affected me at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, which is great. So don't worry about it.
I was very much like
I was more worried about you. Yeah, I was honestly more worried about you because I think what happened was I reacted quite not badly.
I actually not badly is the wrong choice.
But what I mean is, like, because my reaction was quite strong.
You had emotional reaction.
I had an emotional reaction. I think it actually had a stronger emotional reaction on you in a way, because obviously you're the person. You know, I know you would never want that for me.
Life's hard enough without like your mates fucking making you feel like shit. So yeah, I was really bummed out. Really bummed out.
I could tell you.
I wanted to go home. Like right there and then. Like I literally said before the battle on Saturday. I'm not feeling it. Like I think I'm going to see how the battle goes. But like honestly, it's a coin flip at that stage whether I want to stay and do the rest of the weekend basically.
Yeah, and I think.
But fortunately, I did rally through the help of friends and everyone else around me and basically the battle. We'll take a short pause here on this downer. But I promise you, the rest of the weekend is an absolutely rip-storming, pump action, great time.
It's actually a really amazing event. And
before we close out, I just want to say shout out to Al, who's one of the egregores. He's fucking... I love that man so much. He was a really great force in that. Who actually, throughout the weekend, he knew you were upset. Said words to you. He knew I was upset, and even the few words he did say to me on the Friday were really good. But throughout the weekend, he would just be like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
I think everyone realised actually quite quickly that I was okay.
Yeah,
you know, I was like, you know, once the situation was
once the shock wore off.
Yeah, I was totally fine.
But I was.
You were really
an asshole. How selfishly I'm like the one who's just like, oh, woe is me.
No, but I think it's
I was like really bummed.
But I think it's the only, you know, you need a relationship like we have a relationship to have that. Like it would be exactly the same. If I did something that upset you, I would feel exactly the same. I would probably be more bummed out than you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's
I totally get it. I think it's like Orion was like really sweet. He was just like, oh my god, it was almost like mum and dad were fighting, and we weren't fighting, right? But it was like I said I laughed, and I was just like, me and Ian have been friends for an incredibly long amount of time. Like
the law is steeped, right?
And it says a lot that this is our emotional reaction to it, right? That like, you know, and everything like this. Anyway, I think having to fight over Orion in the divorce,
you'd win.
No, there's no way. He would totally pick you. We'll be like in the court being like, come to the one you love, Orion. Come to the one you love, and he'll be in the middle just crying. Really sad.
Look. It's one of those things where it's like, I think in my heart I would get him, but then the reality is he'd be like, but Dave's a lot of fucking fun. Like, I
don't know. I honestly don't know. Let's never
put ourselves.
Let's never have to choose. Yeah. Like, let's share Orion for ourselves.
But yeah, from now on, and actually, like, I should actually say, like,
literally
Thursday and Friday were really, really good.
From now on, it really is just up from here. So you've made it through a hard episode. Yeah. Well done, everyone.
Empire Strike Back is finished.
Yeah, we'll come back with the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, this is no Ewoks. But...
No, I like Ewoks.
You actually are a supporter of the Ewoks.
No, I love the Ewoks.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Because I grew up with you.
Practical effects and all of that stuff, they fucking rock. And like the little, and when they kill, and when they start dying, and how sad it is.
Yeah. The sad music that plays.
Not Jar Jar Binks.
No, that's true. That's very true.
Jesus. Anyway, we're waffling. Back in a bit.
Bye.